Today I'd like to talk to you about a topic that I am intensely passionate about, and that is pet nutrition. We know from talking to our own doctors what we eat and the choices we make when we choose food is very important to our health. Many people can develop chronic medical conditions from making choices that affect us later in life. There are a lot of studies, a lot of evidence that shows that this happens in dogs and cats as well. And so really what it comes down to is, how do you know which food is the best food for your pet? Years ago, we didn't have a lot of choices. You bought food in the grocery store, or you bought food through your veterinarian, and it was pretty black and white. But the food industry has changed quite a bit in the last decade, and there's more and more choices out there for you to choose from. So this is where my advice, or what I give my clients for advice, is actually a little bit more about looking at the company and where is that food being made? How is it being made? And using that to determine if we should trust that food company. The first thing I tell people is I want a food company that employs a board-certified veterinary nutritionist, a veterinarian that has gone through additional training in the area of nutrition, which I believe qualifies them to decide what should be in that food and what ingredients are good for our pets to eat. Many food companies, actually a large percentage of them, do not employ a veterinary nutritionist. Sometimes they'll tell us that they have a nutritionist on staff, and a lot of times it's a human nutritionist. And I think we'll all agree humans are not the same as dogs and cats. Sometimes they'll tell us they employ a veterinarian. I am very quick to say they don't teach me enough in vet school to be that knowledgeable to build a dog or cat food. So I really want that board certified nutritionist. So that's number one. Number two, does that pet food company actually make their own food? Do they own processing plants and control what comes in and out of that facility for ingredients? The majority, sadly, of pet foods on the market are processed in one or two large factories in the US that make pet food. If many of you have been around long enough to remember back when we had major recalls across large brands of food, kidney failure, liver disease, because of things that were inappropriately added to the food and made pets sick. Food companies that make their own food control those ingredients, and they have very high-tech ways to make sure the ingredients going into the food are safe for your pet. But that's a discussion for another day. The third thing I want to look at is if they make a claim, this will help prevent this problem in your pet. Do they have the science to back that up? Food companies that employ those veterinary nutritionists are going to do studies. If we feed this to their pet, number one, is it digested? They'll actually test the poop of the animal to make sure the nutrients in there have been actually absorbed and digested. Second thing they're going to look for is, was there actual clinical benefit? So when they tell you it's good for something, you can pretty much be sure that it is. If a company isn't spending money on research, they're often spending money on advertising. If you see your food advertised in every magazine and TV program you watch, chances are they're not spending money where they need to employ the people they need to, or even to make their own food. All right, so where do you even know where to get this information? How do you know? Well, first ask your veterinarian. Most veterinarians are going to recommend foods that we know follow those principles. But there is a new resource that I'd like to introduce it to you. It's the Pet Nutrition Alliance. And on the Pet Nutrition Alliance, you'll see all of these principles spelled out again, explained to you why these are important. But what they also did is they reached out to every food company in multiple different ways and asked them to answer those questions. And they entered that information on a spreadsheet. At the top of the spreadsheet are the companies that said yes right across the board. As you go down the list, you'll see, okay, this one doesn't employ a nutritionist, but they might do this, this, and this. And you can make decisions based upon those answers. 90% of the food companies did not respond to those surveys, which is disheartening, but probably also means they couldn't say yes to any of those questions that were asked. We will share that website on the community television webpage so you can check it out yourself. And as always, ask your veterinarian what food they would recommend for your pet.